All right, taking a look at the bigger picture, Peter Andersen, Chief Investment Officer, founder of Andersen Capital Management. Thank you for being with us. We were just talking about a lot of the old school names, but it's the Mag 7 that everybody really likes to talk about often because they own a lot of that. They can't help it if they own the S&P or the NASDAQ. Tell me a little bit about the AI trade.
Well, I think that that's going to focus more intensely now that we're getting into later quarters of earnings. And, so far it's been, trust me, build it, and they will come. I'm starting to think now that these next quarters will focus more on what's your business plan. You've spent all this kind of money on CapEx, and when are we going to see results? So I'm hoping that there will be a focus on more of the execution of solid business plans behind AI, Nicole. So far, we have just been investing, or I would say spending CapEx on the faith and the hope that this is going to come through as something that's going to be very, very beneficial to the Mag 7, for instance. But so far, I think they're coming up short, don't you?
I don't have a thought because if I did, I think I'd be in big trouble, so especially since I'm not a registered advisor. However, I will say there's concern about the CapEx spending, and you talk about billions and billions and the circular spending that we're seeing from one tech company to the next. And the Mag 7 in each quarterly report, sometimes we balk at the numbers. And when do they become when do investors become a little tired, a little jaded, saying, how much are you spending? Where's the monetization? When do we see the return on investment on this? And do you think they'll sour on some of these Mag 7 names?
It is so difficult to predict when that focus will pivot to an intense focus on those questions. But so far, we have really been patient in giving them a wide swath to report their CapEx. And when the discussion comes to what are you going to be doing with the AI, so far that has been a very thin discussion, and I'm hoping that that will pick up. But it's so hard to predict this thing. For instance, this could go on for several quarters. I'm not saying that this quarter is going to be the make-all quarter where it actually does focus, but I also wouldn't be surprised if we woke up one morning and all of a sudden the attitude had changed by the investors, and all of a sudden they started focusing on these questions. I mean, it is extremely important. I feel like I'm probably one of the only people on this side that focuses on where is your business plan. So far, people are focusing more on how much have you spent, and are you staying competitive with your competitors in terms of spending that CapEx, because you don't want to get behind. I mean, if you remember, I think it was about 18 months ago, Meta's CEO said, we have to keep spending because we don't want to fall behind our competitors. That, to me, sounds a little bit hollow in terms of a rationale.
So tell me about where investors should be putting their money to work. I mean, how do you said, what's your plan, you were saying. Yeah. What is the plan?
Yeah. Well, I think you can avoid some of these really nagging questions, in fact, by looking at other sectors. So in our opinion, what we like are European defense companies. We think those are very, very solid, and that's a NATO defense play that I've been playing since, frankly, the beginning of the year. And we also like cybersecurity. Ironically, I think cybersecurity will benefit from AI because once the bad actors get a hold of AI, they're going to also improve their game, and so that's going to put more demand on cybersecurity. And lastly, and I might get booed out of the room for this, but in terms of coal industry, we do think that the current administration has been quite vocal about enforcing and supporting coal production now. And so companies like Peabody Energy, for instance, or Peabody Energy, BTU, is a company that we think has great prospects given what the current administration's attitude is toward coal.
And then for cybersecurity, what are your favorite names there?
Banner names, Palo Alto, CrowdStrike, and we also like CyberArk. And as you know, CyberArk and Palo Alto are combining soon, so that will be very interesting to see their earnings announcements and their conference calls to see how they are spinning or interpreting that really large acquisition that mainly has been kind of ignored by the general press and public, but we do think it is a very, very good combination to have been accomplished.
We heard a lot from our own defense companies here at home in the last 24 hours from Lockheed Martin, GE, Northrop Grumman, and LMT. And you said you're looking at European defense companies, similar, different. What are you looking at, and where's the opportunity?
Well, the opportunity there is because, remember, NATO, before this administration was inaugurated, we had a very different attitude toward supporting NATO. Once Trump came in, it was clear that the NATO organizations were going to be on their own, therefore having to enforce their own funding to grow their defense sector. And so companies like Rolls-Royce, for instance, or Safran are companies that are in the sweet spot. It's almost a free gift, frankly, we think, to investors to look at this and say, here's the NATO situation, what are the main players? And it seems almost obvious to us that these companies will do better because they are going to have much more demand on their products.
Peter Andersen, Chief Investment Officer, founder of Andersen Capital Management. Thank you for answering the questions today.